Welcome to Trainz! Hey there, friends, and welcome to Trainz Reviews. Today we're going to be looking at this really cool DC-9. So this is an Inflight 200 die-cast McDonnell Douglas. It's painted for Eastern Airlines. It is the Inflight IF932010, the McDonnell Douglas DC-9-30 model airplane. The Trainz SKU is P12812456 and price at time of filming is $101.99. So let's slide this open and see what all we've got. Now, Eastern Airlines was considered one of the big four airlines in the United States. It was founded in 1926 as Pitcairn Aviation, but in 1930 it was renamed Eastern Airlines. And unfortunately, it went bankrupt in 1991. So this one of the big four is no more. It did have some very interesting CEOs. Eddie Rickenbacker, a World War I flying ace, was CEO at one point in time, as well as Frank Borman, who was the commander of the Apollo 8 mission. That was the first mission to orbit the moon and return. So definitely some high-profile folks in charge for a while there. The DC-9 is an extraordinarily long-lived design, okay? Started out in 1965. Over time, it got developed and changed. It became the McDonnell Douglas MD-80, and then the MD-90 and 95, then the Boeing 717, and today the Comac ARJ-21, which isn't a complete copy, but it does share the nose profile, the tail, and the fuselage cross-section. So we're talking about a plane that parts of it are still in production today, which I think is just really neat. Now, the DC-9 was intended to be a much smaller aircraft than, your Boeing 707, your DC-8, the four-engine jetliners. This was more of your small airport-to-airport hop kind of thing. The Dash 30 version is a stretched iteration, and it's about 14.5 feet longer, as far as the fuselage stretch goes. The wingspan is the same. The engines were eventually changed to a Pratt & Whitney JT8D turbofan, just for, a little more power, a little more fuel efficiency. As you can tell, this is a T-tail, and the engines are mounted to the side of the fuselage rather than under the wings. And that gave a really clean, simple, strong wing design. So this is really good at, short field operations, things like that. But if you happen to be a passenger mounted in some of these last rows here, well, it could get kind of loud. So as I mentioned, we started out with the Douglas DC-9. It became the McDonnell Douglas MD-80, 88, 90, 95, right? And then when Boeing bought McDonnell Douglas, it became the Boeing 717. That's the most recent version to be built for the American airliner market. Delta has a ton of all these different variations. And I have been. You see this very last window that's kind of obscured by the jet engine? I have sat in that seat, and it's like having your head stuck inside of a vacuum cleaner. It is just so loud, so loud. These days, most modern designs will have the engines under the wings, much further away from the cabin. They're much quieter, much more enjoyable to be in as a passenger. But one of the reasons for these side engines on the DC-9, as well as the Boeing 727, which was a tri-jet, 2 engines on the sides and 1 on the tail, it helped the aircraft be very low to the ground. And on the 727 and the DC-9, they had an Airstair, right? So a retractable staircase in the back of the plane. So you could land at an airport, because we're talking about 1965, right? You could land at an airport, put down the rear stairs, and people could get on and off the airplane without having to be connected to a jetway. So great for those small airports that don't have a lot of infrastructure built up. So there were reasons for the design, and it worked really well for what it was designed for. Just don't be the passenger in the very last row. So I think I've mentioned it before. I'm a big fan of the Inflight 200 models. I have a couple of my own. This has a nice kind of shiny finish to it, doing that Eastern Airlines paint job like I mentioned. So we have the nice kind of chrome finish on the fuselage, the wings, the tail, the main body of the turbofans, as well as the belly, of the aircraft. It does have a little, Inflight 200 logo right here, but when it's mounted on a stand, it doesn't come with one, but you can find stands for it. You wouldn't really see that. The door details are picked out quite nicely. The windows are picked out, the overwing exit doors as well. And then the registry number, for those who are concerned, would be November 8923 Echo. So that's a really nice, crisp paint job. They've even drawn in the windshield wipers on the front there. So I think it looks pretty darn neat. Odds are good you or someone have flown on a DC-9 or a DC-9 derivative. And it's definitely the little work truck of the skies. So I think it's pretty cool. Well, that's all for today. So please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. And until next time, see how much better an airline can be with Eastern Airlines.
Trainz.com. Making dreams come true. One train at a time.